Hi friends, we're going to talk today, our little homestead chat, about meat birds. And we recently tried Red Ranger meat birds instead of the Cornish cross. We actually did them at the same time. We did 24 Red Rangers to try out. We'd always done Cornish cross in the past, and we had a couple batches of 50 Cornish cross this year. So we had 25 Red Rangers in one chicken tractor along with 5 turkeys, and then we had the 50 Cornish cross in another chicken tractor. They were on the same field next to each other, eating the same food. Everything was the same. The Red Rangers do take longer. We let them go a little longer, but here's the reasoning that I would still do the Red Rangers rather than the Cornish after comparing them. So they grow slower. The Red Rangers grow slower. They take we went almost double the time. So we went about 16 weeks instead of just 8 weeks for the Cornish. We had a really hot heat wave kind of scenario where it was 100 degrees several days in a row. During that time, half of the Cornish died. In one day, we lost 9. We had already previously lost quite a few, but those really hot days, and I had shade cloth over the top of them, trying to keep them cool. I had a mister on them one day to keep them cool, and they're just out in the grass in the field. There's no trees out there, but that's our pasture situation. And 9 died one day from heat because they can't handle the heat, especially after they're big. And we were only a week, I think, away from butcher at that time. And as they start to get full sized, they look miserable, honestly. And so they just could not handle the heat. So that takes a chunk out of your margins when you're trying to calculate how much these birds are costing you. At the same time, those Red Rangers didn't lose a single one. It didn't even seem to phase them. They had water, they had food. I don't even know that we stuck any wheat cloth or shade cloth over that chicken tractor. They were just fine. It didn't really phase them. So that was a big show to me that the Cornish are just so much more delicate. Yes, they are bigger. Those Cornish, we had anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds is where they ended up. When we processed the Red Rangers, they were in more the 4 to 6 pound range. But I'm okay with a smaller bird because eating an 8 pound chicken is kind of ridiculous to me. It's just not really necessary. That I'd rather cook a smaller one. So that was okay. And a 4, 5, 6 pound chicken is really pretty good sized. So size wise, it was fine. Food consumption, because you're having to keep them twice as long, so you want to consider, how is this going to be? Am I going to go through twice as much food? Actually, I think it was a wash, because the Red Rangers ate so much less food in that first 8 weeks that I think pound per pound for food, we were probably at a wash. It was probably equal. The Cornish were going through a 5-gallon bucket of food a day easily. And yes, by the time we finished, I think we were at like maybe 35 birds Cornish, because so many of them had died. We started with 46 in that batch, I believe. So and where the Red Rangers had the turkeys with them. So comparing the food, I think the Cornish eat so much more, but I don't even feel like they really process the food. They just kind of poop it out, and it's not, they just don't, they use it and they convert it, but I just don't feel like they're a healthy bird. So plucking, people would wonder about plucking, because the Cornish really their feathers practically just fall out. And when you go to process them, they're practically half bald anyway. Their feathers on their chest have all just kind of fallen out. They don't grow very well, and they look kind of gross. We call them like dinosaurs. They don't look very appealing. Where the Red Rangers look like a nice, healthy chicken, and they don't just sit all day. They run around. They're great on pasture. We were letting them out with the turkeys in with electric netting, and they were running around in the pasture, doing great. And so where the Cornish just sit in one spot, they don't move. They eat their food, and they're just like sweaty and clammy and gross. So I feel pretty strongly about that. The other thing, so people would wonder, well, how do they compare taste-wise? We actually ate our first Red Ranger chicken on Monday night, and it was really good. It has a nice buttery flavor. The meat was not tough at all, even though it was 16 weeks compared to 8 weeks. The breast was nice and big and juicy. So I think comparing, I am all for doing the Red Rangers rather than the Cornish, and it's worth the extra time. With us, we would be doing we would move on to another batch of chickens anyway, so we would still be doing the work. So maybe our plan would be to do twice as many all at once, and rather than stretching it out, that way we're still spending the same amount of time, I guess is my point. And because people are like, oh, 8 weeks and then we're done with that. So I would go the longer and do the Red Rangers again. That's my opinion. So I encourage you to try both if you want, but don't be afraid to do the Red Rangers, knowing that they're going to take longer to grow. You're still going to get them to a decent size, and they're going to be healthier. And especially if you have a situation where you're in a hot climate, I highly recommend the Red Rangers, because they will outlive the Cornish in a situation of extreme heat. So if your setup is where you can't keep them in the shade, then I would do the Red Rangers. They taste great. The feathers plucked out fine, even though they're a darker feather. So some people worry about that darker feather plucking out, and they plucked out just fine. And that was not an issue at all. They cleaned up really nice. They looked great. So I would encourage you to try both if you want, or don't be afraid to try the Red Rangers. I think you'll really like them. They were great.